This isn't a story about greed. I wasn't trying to get rich quick. I was trying to be responsible. I was trying to protect everything I had. And that, I've learned, is the cruelest joke of all. The very fear they use to hook you is the one you're so desperate to escape. I still can't wrap my head around it. 20 years. I trusted him for 20 years. His name was David, and he wasn't just my financial advisor. He was a friend. He was the one I called when my husband, Tom, passed away. He's the one who sat with me and promised that Tom had left me in a good position. And now, it's all gone. My entire life savings, the nest egg that was our life's work. Just gone. He called it a fortress, a secure fund to protect me from inflation. Well, that fortress is a pile of dust now, and I'm left fighting to keep my home. This is the story of how my future was stolen. And that's when I realized he wasn't after just my money. He was after my life itself. My story doesn't start with a dramatic bang, but with the quiet, steady rhythm of a normal life. Tom and I, we were simple people. Our days were filled with small joys. The taste of sweet iced tea on a hot afternoon, the smell of my quilting fabrics piled high in a basket, the familiar sound of hymns at our little church on Sunday. Tom was an engineer, a quiet, steady man who planned everything. Our life was built on his favorite phrase, "Live within your means and always be ready for a rainy day." We imagined a retirement filled with the laughter of our grandkids, road trips to see the national parks, and quiet evenings spent together. For nearly 4 decades, a piece of every single paycheck went straight into our retirement funds. We called it paying our future selves. That money wasn't just a number on a page. It was all the dinners out we skipped, the vacations we didn't take, the years I drove a car with a heater that only worked when it felt like it. It was our promise to each other that after a lifetime of hard work, we'd have peace. When Tom got sick, our whole world tilted. After he passed, the silence in our house was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. And that's when David went from being a name on a business card to my lifeline. He'd been introduced to us by a colleague of Tom's 20 years ago. After the funeral, he sat at my kitchen table, helping me draft the obituary. He listened for hours while I told him stories about Tom. He'd check in on me, asking about my quilting circle, remembering my kids' names. When my first grandchild was born, he sent a little silver rattle. He was managing my trust. There's a name for this: affinity fraud. It's where scammers prey on the trust within a community. I didn't know that term then. For me, it was just friendship. Once or twice, a little voice in my head would ask, "Are you putting too much trust in one person?" But I'd push it away. This was David. He'd been there. He was a friend. After Tom died, I went to his office, a mess of grief and nerves. He sat with me for hours. He looked me right in the eye and said, "Margaret, Tom did a wonderful job. He's left you completely secure. My only job now is to protect it for you, just like he would have." I felt a wave of relief so strong it almost knocked me over. The trust was absolute. And that's what the whole nightmare was built on. The ground started to shift subtly. Every news report seemed to be about runaway inflation or a coming recession. My carefully planned budget suddenly felt like a sandcastle against a rising tide. That's when the phone rang. It was David. His voice wasn't its usual cheerful self. He sounded serious, concerned. It was the performance of a lifetime. "Margaret," he began, his voice low and intimate. He paused. I'm glad I caught you. I've been looking at your portfolio, and frankly, I'm worried. He let that hang in the air. This inflation, it's a silent thief. It's eating away at your nest egg every single day. My heart started to pound. He was voicing my deepest fears. The markets are just too unpredictable, he went on, his tone soft, as if confiding a secret. I've been looking for something to shield my most valued clients from this. And Margaret? He paused again, looking me right in the eyes during our next meeting. I've found a very unique opportunity. He called it the Patriot Legacy Secure Income Fund. He slid a brochure across the polished wood of his desk. The cardstock felt heavy, important. The office smelled of success and leather. The hook was the promise of guaranteed returns. This isn't like the stock market, Margaret, he said with absolute confidence, the click of his expensive pen punctuating the silence. This fund provides a guaranteed 7% annual return, rain or shine. It's as close to a sure thing as you can get. A small, quiet part of me knew it sounded too good to be true. David, moving my whole 401k. That's a huge step. He was ready for it. He leaned forward, his voice a warm, fatherly chuckle. Margaret, this is me, David. Have I ever, in 20 years, steered you wrong? I promised you after Tom died that I would protect what he built for you. That is exactly what I'm doing now. Invoking my husband? It was calculated cruelty. The risk, he finished, his eyes holding mine, isn't in making this move. The risk is in doing nothing and letting inflation eat your future. A courier arrived the next day with a glossy folder. The documents were dense with legalese. Margaret, I need you to sign these and get them back to me ASAP, he said on the phone. There's a very limited window. I had to pull some strings just to get you a spot. This sense of urgency is a classic scam tactic designed to stop you from thinking. The shame of second-guessing our friend of 2 decades felt worse than the risk. So, I signed. I signed away my life's work. I thought I'd secured my peace. Instead, I'd signed my own death warrant. The illusion of security held for almost a year. Then my roof started leaking. I called David's office, confident. No problem at all, Margaret, he said cheerfully. I'll put in the request. A week went by. My daily walk to the mailbox, once a pleasant routine, became a knot of anxiety in my stomach. Nothing. I called again. A slight administrative delay, he said, his voice a little more harried. The silence in the house started to feel heavy, accusatory. I started searching online late at night. Investment withdrawal delays. The results made my blood run cold. A month after my first call, with a storm on the way, I drove to his office. The building stood tall and imposing, a monument to a security I no longer felt. My footsteps echoed in the marble lobby. The air in his firm's reception area felt stale, different. The receptionist looked panicked when she saw me. I'm so sorry. He's with a client, she started. I'll wait, I said. I sat there for an hour as my anxiety churned into anger. Finally, a senior partner I'd never seen before came out and saw the look on my face. Ma'am, why don't you come into my office? He told me David hadn't worked there for 2 weeks. There had been irregularities. He asked me the name of my fund. The Patriot Legacy Secure Income Fund, I said. He just slowly shook his head, his eyes full of a pity that made my skin crawl. I'm sorry. he said gently. "We have no record of that fund." The words didn't make sense. "That's not possible," I stammered, my hands shaking as I pulled the latest glossy statement from my purse. "Look, here it is." He took the paper. "This is a very good forgery," he said softly, "but it's not from us. Wherever your money went, it didn't come here. The world just stopped. Every birthday card, every reassuring promise, a 20-year lie. The money wasn't just gone for the roof. All of it was gone. That night, I had to call my son, Michael. Trying to explain it, to say the words out loud, was the hardest thing I've ever done." There was a long, terrible silence on the other end of the line before I heard his choked whisper, "Oh, Mom, no." In that moment, I felt a pain ripple through my family, a generational wound caused by one man's greed. The financial reality crashed down hard. My 3-legged stool, pension, Social Security, and my 401k was gone. He had drained everything. All I had left was my Social Security check in the house. And then the letter arrived. I'll never forget the sound of the thick packing tape ripping as the courier stuck the notice to my front door. A bright pink piece of paper against the dark wood. A foreclosure warning. I saw my neighbor's curtains twitch. The shame was a physical weight. But the worst was still coming. A week later, I had to call my doctor's office and cancel a routine checkup I've had every year for a decade. I couldn't afford the copay. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about my health, my safety, my ability to simply exist. For months I was drowning in that shame, but slowly, bit by bit, the anger that I had turned on myself started to turn outward. The people who do this, they count on our silence. I looked at that pink notice on my door, and something inside me hardened. He took my money and my trust, but I will not let him take my home or my voice. I called Michael back. "I don't know how," I told him, my voice no longer trembling, "but I'm going to fight this. I am not going to let him win. My future isn't the one I planned, but I can give it a new purpose, making sure this doesn't happen to you. I see the red flags so clearly now. I need you to promise me you'll see them too. First, I need you to listen to your gut. If they say guaranteed, it's a lie. Real investments have risk. If they promise high returns with no risk, it's a fantasy. Second, if they say hurry, it's a trap. A legitimate professional will give you time to think, to talk to your family, to get a second opinion. Scammers create false urgency so you can't see straight. Third, if they use words you don't understand, stop them. Fraudsters use complicated jargon to make you feel small. If you don't understand it, you walk away. Fourth, and this is the hardest one, be so careful when someone uses friendship as their main selling point. That friendship was the weapon he used to destroy my life. Finally, always verify. Never send money directly to an advisor. Before you invest a dime, check them out using FINRA's broker check. It's a free, simple step that could have saved me everything. If something like this has happened to you, I am begging you, please don't be silent. Reporting it isn't just about justice. It's an act of survival and sisterhood. It's how we protect each other from the predators. Your voice is a weapon. I'm fighting now. I found an online support group. The first time I logged on and saw the faces of other women, their voices trembling with stories so much like my own, I finally felt the shame begin to lift. I wasn't alone. The old porch swing where Tom and I dreamed our dreams is gone now. I had to sell it for parts. They took the swing, but they can't take my voice. Tom always used to tell me, "Don't you worry, Margaret. We'll be safe." His promise was for me, but now I'm making it for all of us. Together, we can be safe. We can be a fortress they can't break. Thank you for listening. Watch this next for another gripping tale of retirement gone wrong, plus the lesson you can't afford to miss.